Um, so I'm just gonna go for it. Saylor,
Go.
I respect the fuck out of you. Why are you concerned that you have 90,000 Bitcoin in a custodian? Like, should MicroStrategy hold their own Bitcoin? Is this something that MicroStrategy is considering? How do you think about the risks involved with having someone else hold that Bitcoin for you?
You know, when we started thinking about buying it, we had a choice. We could have acquired a lot of Bitcoin through a fund, and then we would have been locked into a custodian forever. But we decided to buy the underlying naked asset so that we would have control over the custodian. And right now, my view is you want to own Bitcoin. And for most people, most corporations and individuals, my advice would be buy as much Bitcoin as you can. Buy it, but if you're not in the position to self-custody it immediately, buy it through an agent or some avenue where you have the option to self-custody in the future when the time comes. There could be a time when MicroStrategy will self-custody, and we have the option to do it. I'll answer this in two ways. I mean, as a publicly traded company, I have all sorts of compliance and charter and corporate governance issues and accounting issues that I have to work through in order to properly assure all constituencies that we manage the corporation's assets properly. And that doesn't really preclude switching custodians, splitting custodians, or self-custodying. But in the first 12 months of a public company doing this, clearly we're walking before we're going to run. And I think that the only way that you're going to be comfortable with Bitcoin is to have the option to move it to any custodian in the world or to self-custody it yourself at all points in time. So always have the optionality. I think the way this thing ends with regard to the inflation is the economies are going to inflate, and they're going to do that until they can't. Right now they're not paying their bills with taxation, they're paying their bills with inflation. Weak currencies, weak economies are going to collapse. Some countries will lose their currency privileges. They're just going to go away, the Venezuelas of the world. And the strongest countries will spread their currencies. And then at some point, I'm an optimist. I believe that the United States and Europe and the Western world will embrace Bitcoin because it's great technology that's going to be worth hundreds of trillions of dollars to the human race. And once they realize that it's great technology, it's good for America, it's good for American technology, it'll be good for the dollar, it'll be bad for the weakest currencies, then at some point they will realize they can't keep expanding the supply of all the monies. They'll slow it down. We'll move with moderation, and the government will start to pay its bills with taxation. There'll be political maneuvering. Who should pay the tax? Will it be corporations? Will it be an income tax? Will it be a capital gains tax? Will there be some other contribution? The world will restructure itself rationally, but in a world where half of the money is Bitcoin, it'll be some kind of peaceful negotiation with all of the entities involved in order to build a better world based upon a better technology. Nobody expects that we'll keep inflating the currency at 20% a year forever, except if the country is Venezuela and they do it, we know how that'll end. So I'm expecting that in the Western world, they'll embrace technology. They will eventually change. Look, even Jerome Powell in his interview, he says, well, we can't keep doing what we're doing forever, but the current amount of debt we can sustain. And in the future, something will have to change. Like I think all the politicians know something will have to change in the future. I believe, Matt, I like the idea that MicroStrategy could take custody of its own Bitcoin when and if it needs to. It won't happen this year. But, life is long. And what I've said before is you can't trust any custodian. So maybe you have to move from custodian A to custodian B. Maybe you're in, if your custodian is a certain state and they change the laws, you need to move to a different state. Maybe it's a certain country and they change the laws, you need to move to a different country. Maybe you'll decide that there's a multi-signature arrangement that you trust. And I think the fact that there could be 1 billion people with their own custody, and the fact that everybody has the ability to take custody of their property is the one thing that creates keeps the integrity of the network sound. And I think it's the one thing that gives me hope. And at the end of the day, the reason that the politicians in the Western world will negotiate in a peaceful fashion to come up with an arrangement is going to be because the companies that have the Bitcoin will have the option to move the Bitcoin to a different country or to move a different custodian. And the point that I will make in my debate with Mr. Giestra next week is that the difference between having $1 billion of gold and $1 billion of Bitcoin is if you have $1 billion of gold and I drop a bomb on your building and I kill everybody, I can dig through the rubble and take the gold. The gold will still be there. If I burn your house down, the gold will still be there. I can shoot you and take the gold. But if you have $1 billion in Bitcoin and it's protected by multi-sig passwords and you kill everybody, you're not getting the Bitcoin. And so I think that Bitcoin lends itself to peaceful resolution in a rational fashion with consequences. And I think that certain other types of wealth, like land, gold, physical, tangible wealth, they lend themselves to just seizing it at the barrel of a gun with force. And I think you'll see that play out. You even see it playing out right now outside the US, right? Where a country says, we don't want you to buy Bitcoin anymore. They might be able to stop you from buying it or selling it, but they can't stop you from owning it. And they can't take it away from you. And so I think that that's a great thing for Bitcoin. And I don't think you have to, there are some companies that couldn't buy the underlying Bitcoin, but I encourage everybody that can to buy the Bitcoin and be in a position to take custody of their keys or to take custody of their keys. And it just depends on the entity.
Hey, Michael, if this is you walking, I can't imagine you running.